Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's video presentation for Retail Pro 9 Screen Designs and Layouts. My name is Charlie West. I'm a support technician with Canadian Retail Solutions. And today we're going to be covering screen designs and layouts, which includes quite a few different sections, from us editing your home page, your toolbars, your list and form views in Retail Pro, and we'll cover some of the customizations or branding that you can use those screen designs and layouts in order to accomplish. So to get us started, I'm going to focus, we're going to start on somewhere simple today, which is just editing the home page. So I've got Retail Pro up on the screen, and you can see I have this nice background for Canadian Retail Solutions with some information on today's video presentation. This is simply an image that I made with a bit of information about CRS in today's presentation that I applied to my Retail Pro homepage. Okay, by default, it just comes with a logo from Retail Pro, but you have the option to change it to a web page or an image file. I like the image files best, simply because web pages, staff can accidentally click through and there might be some integrated video or sound or something like that. A nice image file, you could put contact information that's important to you. Say you're going to put the contact information and addresses for your store and your other locations. That way, if somebody calls and asks, you quickly have that information available right on the home screen. I've seen some where the back office station has a home screen with all their different vendor names and contact numbers. So they've got a quick place where they can quickly look up each vendor to give them a call to check the status of an order. Okay, changing your home screen is very easy. You just go up into your options from your top menu and click on Workstation Preferences. And right at the very first page in the general settings of our workstation preferences is the homepage URL. All right, so that lets us select either a website, a URL, or we can choose a picture file like I've done here, which is a .png file, or a .jpg or JPEG file works as well. Okay, and that could be as simple as a small picture of your logo. So you notice when I click on that little folder to select the picture or the website I want, it's given me the file type HTML down at the bottom. I'm just going to change that to all files. And now I can see the different CRS logos that I have available. In this case, I went to my pictures folder and I selected the RPro 9 screen design and layouts picture. Double click on it, press update, and my homepage has been changed. Okay, so your website's a good start, but I do, if you have some time, recommend a nice picture file with your logo or some important information that will save the staff from having to look up if they're doing, looking up the same piece of information over and over, like your address and postal code and, maybe emails for people on staff. All right. Now, the next thing I want to cover is just your toolbars. So you can see across the top here, I have a number of different options on my toolbar: receipts, sales orders, register, open, close, merchandise, purchasing, and so forth, all the way down to sales targets. Both my top and my right toolbars are completely customizable. Okay, so this is really handy. For instance, if you have point of sale machines at the front of house and they never need to go into purchasing or transfers, why not just remove those buttons completely? Okay, then you don't have the risk of the staff kind of playing around, clicking on buttons, who knows? Or just the simple fact that you just don't want those options listed there because there's no reason for them to ever open them. In this case, we right click on the toolbar and go to Menu Designer, and we get the options here to customize the toolbar. So we can see on the left are all the available buttons I can add to the toolbar, and there's quite a few. So there's lots of different shortcuts you can add to that toolbar. And on the right, I have my different, the options or the buttons that I currently have available on my toolbar, and I use these nice arrows in the middle here to move those buttons back and forth. So for instance, let's take my sales targets, which is available under my employee management, and let's move it off of my toolbar. Okay, so I use the left arrow to move it back into the list of available buttons, and I removed sales targets from my menu. Another thing I'm going to do here is slightly increase the size of my buttons. Maybe I have a nice new touch screen. I'm going to change the width down at the bottom from 125, and let's change this to 140. Make it a bit bigger so it's a bit easier to click on those buttons. And we can see up at the top, there's the toolbar position, which toolbar you're working on. So I'm working on my main toolbar, but I could switch to the side if I wanted as well. Okay, so you can add more buttons to the side toolbar if needed. You can even turn the toolbar off if you want using the visible button. I'm going to go back to my main. I like it nicely up at the top right. Let's press OK and see our changes. So we've removed the sales target button, and each button has gotten a little bit bigger. Okay, so very simple to edit your toolbars. Right click, menu designer. I'm on the side menu right now. Double click or select the button from the left-hand box that you want available on your toolbar, and you can double click it or use the arrows to move those buttons over to displayed. Okay, maybe in this case, I want to add update delta, which is used for reporting, onto my side toolbar. Press OK, and that button's now available to me. All right, so we started with the easy stuff, the home page and the toolbars. Let's go into our list views. So I'm going to go into merchandise inventory. Since that's a common place for you to spend some time in list view, and we'll have a look. Okay, I'm going to select my item details tab from the bottom, and you can see that we have a couple things going on here. One is the font is quite small. So one of the most common complaints I get from customers is that the fonts in list view are very small and they're hard to read. Okay, just related, to complaints about display. It's very simple here to make a change in font size. And we're also going to cover the fields and the order of those fields that we see in Retail Pro. If we want to change the font size in our list views, right click on one of the column headings, and in this case, I'll right click on Store On-Hand Quantity, go to Interface, Page Manager. Okay, this is where you can add new fields to your list view, remove fields, and edit the font sizes. Okay, on the right is a list of the displayed fields. All the fields that are displayed are above this line here. They call the display line. To have a new field display, I just click and drag it above that display line or below. Store on-hand quantity is currently visible. If I drag it below that display line, it turns gray. I press apply, and store on-hand quantity is now removed. Back under that interface page manager, I can find my store on-hand quantity again, and these are in alphabetical order. I could click and drag it all the way to the top, or I can just double click it. Double clicking it will move it to the next available space in your top menu. Now for the fields that I have listed on here, and it looks like I accidentally clicked in min quantity as well, so I'll double click that to move it below. I can click and drag them around to change the order in which they appear as well. So maybe I want on-hand quantity to show before my cost, price, and margin. And I'll press OK. On-hand quantity is added back in, and it's in front of my cost, price, and margin. You can also click and drag these columns directly in order to move them as well. Okay, so I'm just clicking down, holding, and dragging that column in the order that I want it to be displayed. Now, when it comes to font size, that's done in the Page Manager as well. I have three options up here: Page, Grid, and Title. Page refers to these tabs down at the bottom: Item Details, Miscellaneous, Price Manager, Auto Min Max. Grid refers to the inventory information we see here in the grid. And lastly was the title, which is just the column headings themselves. So let's change the font size on all of these. I have this nice big widescreen monitor. Why don't I take full use of it? I'm going to change the grid from size 8. Those are way down at the bottom to 12, and we'll leave those in red, but maybe I prefer a nice Arial font. Press OK. I'm going to change my grid size by clicking on the grid button to Arial as well. We're going to increase this to size 11. Press OK. And finally, I'm going to click on the title font button. We're going to increase this one to size 12. And let's make it bold too, so it stands out a bit from the regular grid. Press OK. You can see you have a little sample here, pages, title, and grid font on the right in the page manager, and I'm going to press apply. And we'll just give it a second to update. Now we can see that we've increased the size of all these fonts from the tabs down at the bottom to our grid to our headings. And maybe now I just want to increase the size of some of these columns to take advantage of my extra space as well. So I'm going to increase my description columns, my department columns, take advantage of all this extra space I have available. Okay, now I've filled up the page. Fonts are much bigger. It's easier to look through. My titles stand out a bit more. We're looking good at this point. All right, so especially for customers that have brand new, high resolution widescreen monitors, it's great to edit those font sizes to make things a little easier on the eyes. Okay, and again, you right click on one of the column headings, interface, page manager, and you have your 3 edit font buttons along the top. Now, while we're on list view, I also want to have a look at customizing the quick search bar. So in Retail Pro 9, this little bar here up at the top is known as your quick search bar. Okay, and in this case, DCS, vendor, description 1, and UPC are all available for me to search from in my quick search bar. But let's pretend that I used description 2 in order to organize my style numbers, and I wanted to be able to search from those style numbers without having to go into the filtered view button on the right-hand side and enter in my style number in description 2 field. To edit your quick search bar, we right-click on the inside of that bar and press Design Quick Filter. This brings up the page designer, which we're going to cover a bit more when we edit a form view page later. But in this case, we want to edit a brand new field. I'm going to show you, just press the Fields button up here. Okay, and if there's a field you want to remove, example, Global UPC, you click on those fields and press the Delete button. But in this case, I want to add a brand new field to the list. So I'm going to click on the Fields button in the top left. I'm going to find my description 2 field, and I'm going to drag it from available fields right to my quick filter. Okay, it's looking a bit different than the one that's up there currently. So I'll click on this field and we'll edit the font. My font available, change this to bold, and it looks to me like maybe it's a size 10. We'll set that to Arial. Oh, that might even be a bit too big. Let's go back to 8 to match the rest. Press OK. We can click on it and move it around now if we want a little bit. So we can move it in line with the other fields that are available. And when we're all done, we'll press Save. Okay, it looks like I'm getting a bit of my description 2 cut off. So I'm going to right click, go to my design again, click on the box only, not the description, and move that a bit away from the description. Press save, and now I have a description 2 available to search by. So I go ahead and use this now for doing quick searches in Retail Pro without having to go into filtered view. And we'll just give it a second to do the search. Okay. So much simpler than having to go into filtered view each time. and very easy for me to quickly update and add an extra field into that quick search. Okay, so we've covered the home page, the toolbars, list view, and the quick search. The last one that we really want to cover is form view in Page Designer. So in order to do that, I'm actually going to go into a receipt form view. Because that's where I really find, I mean, all the form view pages are important to have customized, to fit within your workflow. And so that might be adding some extra fields or removing fields from the existing design. So say on a voucher, there might be 5 or 6 different fields on there that you don't need at all. And there's no point in you having them on there if you don't ever need them, that staff might accidentally put something in there or put it in the wrong field. You really want to customize it to work for you and the workflow of your business. So in this case, I'm going to use the receipt because that's a really common area where I see people have way too many fields that they're not using or fields are missing that they wish that they had. Okay, so I'm on list view. I'm going to click on form view, and we're going to do a bit of editing here. So right off the bat, we can see that the default screen, this is the default layout in Retail Pro, is customized for a little standard definition screen, one of those kind of small point of sale square screens that you might see on an all-in-one point of sale station. It's not in any way taking advantage of this big widescreen monitor, and it might even be a touch screen. I've got these little buttons on here. It's not taking advantage of that in any way. So we're going to go through a bit of design changes today to show you kind of what options you have available. Now, this can get complicated pretty easily, and it can quickly get out of hand. So if you're not comfortable with it, put together a general plan of what you're looking for, what you'd like to see, what fields you'd like to have, what ones you want removed, maybe some, get a logo or some colors for your brand ready, and set up an appointment with CRS, and we can help you go through this and set it up to your liking. Okay, but if you do want to come in here yourself, the first thing I would recommend is making a backup. And to do that, we access what is called the Layout Manager. So I right-clicked on the background here of the screen. I went to Interface, Layout Manager. You can see there's a couple extra layouts in here. Backups, Default, New and Improved, and I'm currently on Default. I'm going to press the Copy button, and I'm going to create one here called Backup. We'll say this is, or you can even give it a new name and start working on the new one, or you can back up the existing one. So we could say backup default. All right, so we've copied the layout for default, and we created a new one called backup default. So I can now edit this default one, and I know I have a backup in case I totally mess things up, remove fields I need desperately. I can always go to that backup. Now I can start playing around without having to worry so much. So I'm going to go into the Page Designer now in order to start making changes to the back of the screen. Okay, so I'm not going to get into too much detail here because it would be a 3-4 hour video on all the different features and kind of options you can do just in the Page Designer here. But just to give you a general idea, we have fields, and we could set up fields, decide which fields are available on the receipt. And there are, about 100 or 200 here available for us to choose some. We have groups of fields where we can group them up together like we see with customer information, receipt information, so we can create groups of different fields that are displayed together. In addition to fields, we have options on here for adding logos. So I can add a picture, take a nice logo, put that available on my screen. I can add little notes. So on here is the add label button. There's also an active button and a memo. So I could add a memo full of notes. Add a nice little note for the staff. And increase the font of that, make it nice and large for them, 18 and bold, and we'll make that a nice crazy red, so it really stands out. Sell protective creams with leather goods. So you can add notes. We've done logos. We can add colors in the background. So you can see we've got this nice bar here, but it's kind of a pale gray. So you can add these nice colored bars in the background. In this case, let's go ahead and make that red again. Press save. So you can see how quickly, you can start organizing things and moving things around. So to quickly move around a lot of fields, we click down and highlight and drag until we've touched all the fields that we want to move. And now I can click down and drag those fields to a new location. So maybe I'm going to move these down here to the bottom. For precise movement, I hold down the control button and I can use my arrow keys to move it around one tiny little digital, pixel at a time. So I moved that to the bottom to make some extra space. Maybe now I want to move my tender buttons here down to the bottom as well. So I'm going to use the control and the arrows. And let's say that we're going to increase the size of them to take advantage of our touchscreen. Let's make these all a bit bigger. I'm just clicking on the button and then dragging the size to increase it while I'm in the page designer. We can see I'm in the page designer because my page designer window is up here on the right. Finally, and most importantly, to take advantage of my big widescreen, I'm going to increase the size of my items list in my receipt window. So we're going to drag that all the way here to the bottom. Now I've got all this extra space and I no longer need to scroll back and forth on my window. I'll press save. Okay, not the most beautiful design I've ever done, but just to get an idea of what's possible. And maybe now at this point, let's increase the size of this as well, just like we did in list view by right-clicking on one of the column headings in my items list and going to the page manager. Let's increase the size of these fonts as well. So we'll change these to a 12 and the titles to a 12 as well and bold. And in this case, I'm going to move a few of these fields below the display line that I don't need, like commission percentage, commission dollars, discount reasons, tax name, and let's do document discount. So just a couple fields that we might not necessarily need. Press OK. Increase the size of some of these fields a bit to take full advantage of them. And we're good. Still no scroll bar. We have a nice big fonts. It's easy to read, double check our items, enter our discounts and such. We've got a note here to sell protective creams with leather goods. We've added a touch of color, a logo, taken full advantage of the screen size and increased our buttons as well. Okay, all in about, 5 to 10 minutes. If we were really, focusing on design, brand, and color coordination, this would be a 30-minute to an hour long process. Okay. Now I'll show you quickly another one that I put together where I spent a bit more time focusing on the colors and the design, although it is kind of similar and I use that as the base for this one. In the layout manager, we're going to go to new and improved, press select. And we'll give it here a minute. All right, so similar to what I did last time, we increased the sizes, the fonts and such. We've got the nice Canadian Retail Solutions logo in the top right corner. I used a dark red and white kind of color pattern. We added some nice notes here on the side, our receipt and customer information, big buttons and so forth. Could use a bit of a size increase here on the fonts, but other than that, things are looking pretty good. Okay. So we can even go further than this. There's some out there that are really, really cleanly well designed, but I like this one. It's only got a couple colors on it. We've got the logo in there. It looks nice. It's branded. It's got a clean design. Just to give you, some more ideas of what's possible with the different form views. And again, form views are available on receipts, sales orders, purchase orders, vouchers, really everywhere in form view where you can switch between list and form. We can add or remove fields and we can customize the backgrounds of those screens. Okay, receipts is a nice one to have kind of branded and customized in case the customer is, you ever need to show the screen to the customer or go through something, they can have that, they can see that nice professional look on there as well. All right. And the last thing I want to cover quick is copying the changes to other users. So this is, again, it's something that's a bit technical, but with Retail Pro 9, these changes that I'm making are not just workstation specific, they are user specific. So I'm logged in as sysadmin right now. These changes would be unavailable to any other user. Okay, the way at CRS that we, if we need to update all the other users is by what I would call resetting, the other users' layouts. And I'll show you quickly how I do that. I'm going to open up Windows Explorer. Okay, I'm going to navigate to my Retail Pro 9 directory. And again, if you're not comfortable with this, give CRS a call. It's a pretty quick process for us if you need us to help, reset the other users or apply your layouts to other users. So I'm going to open my C drive, which is where Retail Pro 9 is installed. Go to Retail Pro 9. We're going to go to our layouts folder. So that's where all the layouts are stored. You can see I have CWest and sysadmin. If there's two folders, those are the two users who have ever logged in on this system. And then I have kind of the generic folder here. So the layouts folder, the generic folder, is the layouts that are given to every new user created in Retail Pro 9. And unless you update it, it'll be just the default layouts that come with Retail Pro. So we'll go back to the way it was before, where it was only taking up a third of the screen. The layouts that I have changed and edited are in the sysadmin folder. Okay, so what I want to do is take these layouts that I've made. I'm going to copy them all. So I selected them all using Control A. I'm going to press copy and paste them into the main Retail Pro 9 layouts folder, replacing all the files in here. Okay, so I replaced the default layouts with my custom layouts from the sysadmin folder. And at this point, I could go into every user's folder and do the same thing. Copy, paste, and replace all their layouts, or I can simply delete the other user folders. When CWest logs back in, it will automatically create a new login for them from in the layouts folder and apply those default layouts, which I changed using sysadmin, to the new CWest one. And I'll show you quickly how that works. Okay, so every new user that logs into Retail Pro, that layouts folder is generated for them. So let's log out quickly. Okay, I'm logged in as CWest. If I go back to that layouts folder in Windows, I can see that Retail Pro created that CWest folder, and it has the layouts that came from the generic Retail Pro 9 layouts folder. So CWest now has this nice custom background on here. Let's pull up our receipt screen. Well as that nice custom designed layout that I had set up earlier. Okay, so that's how we reset the layouts. The grid sizing on the back here and the fields available doesn't copy over, but that's pretty quick to easily and change by right-clicking and going into the page manager here. All right, they'll just need to add or remove those fields and save the font sizes. But the overall layouts, the stuff that really takes a while to edit, all copies over and resets that way. Okay, and again, that was by copying the layout changes I made in sysadmin to the Retail Pro 9 layouts folder, and then deleting all my other secondary users and letting Retail Pro recreate those user layouts folders when they log in, and apply the generic or the updates from the default folder. So if that all sounds like a big confusing mess to you, don't worry, just go ahead and give us a call. So again, I'm going to repeat for all of our Platinum customers, if you can give us notice if you would like some assistance. We generally like to book appointments for this type of work, put together, your ideas, maybe sketch it out and send us an email of a picture of what kind of you're looking for, or just have the fields that you want added, just kind of some idea of where you want to go, so we're not, working in the dark there. During those appointments, and we will totally help you get it set up and customized to exactly what you're looking for. And if you're not a Platinum client with us, you can totally purchase some support hours for use on a project like this. And same thing, you can contact us using our phone or email. So, support@retailbycrs is the way to reach the general support, where you can request an appointment for some customization to your screen design and layouts. Okay, so thank you for watching this video. We will have more coming out soon. We've got some coming up on employees and security, as well as sales targets, commissions, and Retail Pro 9 physical inventory. So lots more to come. Thanks.